All right, let's take a look at a more complicated problem. So in this case, 6x squared minus 25x minus 9. There's no GCF that will help to make our numbers any easier, so we're just going to have to go through this process. And guessing is going to take a long time, and there's way too many possibilities for us to really have a good chance at figuring this out. So the first thing for us to do is to calculate AC. So A in this case is 6. And then C is actually negative 9. And you want to make sure that you keep the negative sign in there because that's going to help us to figure things out. The product, negative 54. As we look at this, we want to make sure that we're aware of that negative sign. We're going to use a little bit of about what we understand about FOIL to help us to figure out what's going on. In the end, we're going to look now for all of the factor pairs of AC, and that's important. We need to find all of the numbers that multiply together to be negative 54. But we know that in the next step we're going to rewrite the polynomial with an expansion of b. And so we're going to have to add the numbers together to get negative 25. Well, if we're going to add together two numbers and the sum is going to be negative, then we know that the larger of the two numbers needs to be negative. So as we're looking at these factor pairs, there's no point in us looking at numbers where the smaller number is negative, because a smaller negative number and a larger positive number are always going to add together to be positive. So in this case, there's no point at looking at negative 1 and 54, but we should consider 1 and negative 54. Their sum is negative 53. So that's not the pair that we're looking for, but that gets us on the right track. The next possibility is 2 and negative 27. And again, if you're looking carefully and you're aware of everything that you're looking for, you should be aware of what the sum is that you want. And so we don't need to continue because 2 and negative 27 adds together to be negative 25. We could continue. We know that 54 is divisible by 3, and it would be 3 and negative 18. But now we're just doing work that we don't need to actually do, because we know that the two numbers that multiply together to be negative 54 and add together to be negative 25 are 2 and negative 27. And so we're going to use those two numbers to rewrite our expanded middle term. Again, it does not matter what order you choose to write them in. The order will not change the factorization that you get. And so in this case, 6x squared plus 2x minus 27x minus 9 is equivalent to our original polynomial, because 2x and negative 27x, when we combine like terms, gives us what we want. Now we're going to factor by grouping. So we're going to look at our first group, and we're going to pull out the GCF. And again, we've made a decision, so let's check our work. 2x times 3x is 6x squared. 2x times 1 is 2x. So we're good. We know that the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that what's inside the parentheses matches. And so we know we need that to be 3x plus 1. And now we need to just figure out what goes on this line. Well, if we look at it, 3x times negative 9 is negative 27x, and negative 9 times 1 is negative 9. So you could write it this way. You also can write it as just a subtraction problem here. That also works. We can finish the factorization by pulling out that GCF and writing the new factor pair. And if we go through and check it with FOIL, it works.